Hey guys, Captain Will here from Flyfish Costa Maya. We're coming back at you with another fly tying video. You may have seen the first one we did, which was a tarpon dragon tails sort of tarpon snake mashup style fly. So if not, check that out. But this is the next video. We're doing a complete 180 of fly tying here. So we're tying a crab fly. So we're going from very big to pretty small. This crab fly in particular, I'll show you this guy right here. If the camera can pick him up. If not, we'll throw a couple of photos in there for you. This guy is a really simple fly. It's called the Hackled Crab. There's about 3 materials that go into it. It's a quick tie. And it's a fly that I designed primarily for fishing for triggerfish. It works great for bonefish, great for permit. You know that they equally want to chew on it. But the triggerfish in particular is the reason why I designed this fly. Now down here in the sort of Mahawalish Kalak area, that coastline, we have great fishing for bonefish and permit, of course. But the real sort of secret star of the show is the triggerfish. That's one of my favorite fish to fish for. They're pretty unique. They're pretty underrated as well. You can go off to the Seychelles, for example, or a lot of the Indian Ocean fishery and fish for triggerfish. People love them. They're well known about. The triggerfish here are pretty similar. You know, they grow big. They fight really hard. They're a very interesting fish. Each one has their own personality. They're quite inquisitive. They're not the easiest fish to hook, but they're very rewarding nonetheless. So the main reason for this fly was something that's pretty small, plenty of movement. It's going to land, you know, pretty softly. You want to throw these flies fairly close to these fish. They have huge eyes, but they sort of kind of mill around a little bit, so you want to get the fly nice and close. So for that reason, we have something that's fairly light, a lot of movement, but most importantly, you can see on there a big, strong hook. These triggerfish have a big set of bolt cutters effectively on the front of their face. So you want a hook that's strong, that's not going to open out. Oftentimes, if you're throwing a light wire hook, they can just completely chew through the hook. So for that reason, we have a simple fly, not a lot of stuff that's going to be sort of chewed off. So you're going to get a number of fish off one fly. But also, it's strong and it's good to go. So my preferred hook for these guys is the Gamakatsu SL12S. In a 4, see that picks up on camera. You can also do it in a 6 as well. If you want to tie a slightly bigger fly, if you're more kind of leaning towards permit and the occasional triggerfish, I would lean more towards the standard SL12. For this one, I'm going to be tying it on a B10S Stinger. This is a size 6. Just because it's one of the hooks I have available. I've run out of the SL12Ss in the 4, that's why I like them so much. So I have it available here. Again, it's another one of those hooks. I do like to tie this fly on this hook if I'm specifically going to be targeting bonefish with that finer wire, but it's pretty strong as well and it will last on the triggerfish. So yeah, without further ado, let's get going. Okay guys, so on to the fly tying process. Firstly, I'll just show you the fly as it's a little bit close. I'm not sure how well it picked it up on the camera. You can just see it, the legs kicking out. You can see the hackle kicking out and the claw as well, that all important strong arm style claw. So that one's been a well chewed up fly, so time for a new one. So to start with, I'm using some chartreuse thread. Any thread color, whatever you want to do, kind of bonefish, shrimp pink, or orange, doesn't really matter. I like the old saying, if it ain't chartreuse, ain't no use. So let's lay a base of chartreuse thread. Again, like the other fly, there's not too much really going on here. Get rid of that. So we're going to go back up to the eye of the hook. Tying our eye. I'm using a medium dumbbell style eye. Again, chartreuse ain't no use. So let's throw this sucker on. Make sure you leave a little bit of space at the front for your head. I'm going to be putting in a weed guard, so you want a little bit of space to lash that weed guard in. Throw some X wraps over the front. Come in below. Oh, spin the eye. Come in below the eye. Slowly tighten down on it. It's building up some thread wraps here to keep it level. So you're looking at the side here. See how level that eye is? All important. Yeah, looking pretty good to me. Okay, so take my thread back down. I'll throw a little bit of glue up on the front bit here as well, just to secure it. We don't want it spinning, otherwise it's going to give us a bad presentation. So a bit of glue on the top side, on the underside. We're going to come back over with thread anyway, but it's just, to give that added security. So there you go, got a bit of space there for your head as well. So I'm going to take the thread back to a little bit past the barb. Let it sort of hang just past the barb there. What that allows me to do is when I tie in the claw, it's going to sort of naturally, as you can see, sort of with this guy, it's going to naturally kind of curve down and kick off, so that when it's fished the right way up, apart from this mangled guy, but normally when it's fished the right way up, kind of the claw's going to sort of just curve upwards a little bit, if you can kind of picture that, so that we want the claw curving down, which will on the reverse side be curving up. So to make that, all we do is take standard ultra chenille. You can see that there. This particular guy we're tying in a white color scheme. I like the white. It's a great all-round color. The easy thing with white is you can take a couple of different colored Sharpies and bar it up, and it looks great. So that's why I like the white. So to start with, to make that claw, you just take a long piece. That's probably 8 inches. A little bit too much, but for video purposes, it's fine. Take a longer piece, double it over, tie an overhand knot. Then we're going to burn the end. So I'll just do that right now. Not sure how well it shows in camera, but you should get the idea. It's pretty common stuff. So take it, fold it over an overhand knot, pull it down tight. So you're left with this bit and that bit. We're going to cut this bit open. Measure them up as to how long we want the claws to be. Try and keep it realistic. I don't think it wants to be crazy long, so take about half an inch off those. A bit more. Yeah, a bit more than that. Okay, like so. And then we're going to take a lighter. Right here. We're going to burn the ends just to kind of create that claw style tip. So, burn that one. Burn this one, like so. That gives that claw style tip. It also helps to secure it's not going to come apart. Now, I always add color to my flies with Sharpies just to customize them up a bit. A lot of the crabs down here are kind of a sort of a tanny olive color, and they do have little flecks of color, bits of yellow or blue. The swimming crabs especially have blue and red on them. So with this style fly, you're trying to imitate a little bit of everything. Nothing in particular, just a sort of a vague form of a crab to keep the fish guessing. So you can leave it like that, color it afterwards. I find that's the easiest way to do it. So take that claw up. Now to measure the claw length, we want it about the length of the hook shank, so sort of from the knot. So that's about there. So that's how long I'm going to tie it in. That sort of length from the knot along the hook shank is about enough. After any more than that, and you start to risk kind of fouling, it also looks a little bit weird. So tie that sucker in. Tie him on top of the hook shank and down around the curve a little bit. Just you'll see it sort of likes to curve up like that. So get that guy tied in. Okay, check on my side. Yep, all looks good. Let's cut this off like so. Tie that down. Okay, all good. It's all going to be covered by hackle anyway, so you don't need to worry too much about what it looks like right now. So let that hang there. Now the next step is to tie in the hackle. After that, we're going to dub the body and then tie the legs in, then palm of the hackle back up. So in terms of hackle choice, you really have a few different options. It all depends on what type of fly you're trying to create. So when I tie these guys, I like to tie something big and bushy that's going to push a little bit of water. So for that, I like to use a cock hackle. You can see I've got a cock cape right here. This cape is from the guys over at Cook's Hill in the UK. make really great capes. Everything, you know, great value for money, great product. The other option, you can use a hen cape, a hen hackle, which is a little bit more webby. The cock hackle's stiffer, which is my preferred option, but the hen hackle can be a bit more webby, kind of almost drape over the fly. So anything kind of a, you know, a hen hackle, strung saddle hackle or something, anything like that in the chosen color that you want to use is, yeah, is the way to go. So as I say, I like to use these hooks from these hackles from Cook's Hill. You can see that they sort of have a slightly brown sort of style honey color on the tips, and then moving down, they have a sort of a more lighter white. So I'm going to use 2 hackles just to keep the body having that sort of brown and white combo. So to start with, I'm going to pick the slightly smaller hackle just to do this back end here, and probably around where that hump is, where we tied off the chenille, I'm going to put the bigger hackle in. So to do that, I take it at the tip, just separate slightly, gently pull those hackles back to about a length where you want that to be. So I want these hackles to be sort of coming off a little bit longer than the hook point. So, and it's not an exact science. It's, you know, if you fill it with hackles and there's a lot of movement, they're not going to be looking at the, you know, every individual hackle length. But yeah, that's the way I do it. Tie it in back towards the claw. I'll go cover that in a little bit. As I said, this fly is meant to be a little bit messy, so don't worry about kind of making a real refined, neat fly, because it's just more time spent tying, less time fishing. So that's in. Next, you're going to want your dubbing. This is the SLF saltwater dubbing blend in a sort of a sandy color. So that's probably the most common blend I use. I use this and it's sand. I also use the sort of burnt orange color for egg sacs on shrimp flies and different things. But take a decent pinch of it. You gotta dub this onto the body. It's just gonna give it a little bit of bulk. At the end of the fly, we're gonna brush it out. So it's gonna kind of mix in with those hackles, help keep those hackles puffed up and not collapsing as much. So dub a little bit of that on there. And we're gonna go through it in stages. So these little legs, we're gonna tie 3 on each side, just like a crab would have. First one's gonna be more or less where the thread hangs off to the barb of the hook. The next one's going to be sort of halfway, a little bit prior to halfway. Then the last set of legs are going to be just before the eye. So I'll dub this body up fairly loosely. Again, you want a bit of that chartreuse color to come through. It's a big attractor on these flies. That, you know, that color really does shine through. And the bonefish and triggerfish really like that especially. So a little bit of loosely dubbed in there, like so. Okay, so what we're going to do now is put the orange leg in. So easiest way to tie in materials like legs or bits of crystal flash or whatever is to pass the leg under the bobbin, lift it over and pull it onto your side. That automatically catches the material in. No need to worry about it. So we're going to pull these legs fairly short. I would say you only want that leg about 1.5 inches. Nothing too crazy. There we go, about there. Tie it in. Same on the other side, so just match up how long your leg is. So match that guy up. Trim him. Let's see. Tied in. This might be a little bit difficult for you guys to see. I'll spin that around. You'll see in a second. Tie this guy in again on the side. On the side there. I'm spinning to my side. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Even them up a little bit. There we go. That's good to me. So you don't want these to be crazy symmetrical. You know, nature's not symmetrical, so you just want it to look somewhat neat, somewhat crabbish. Okay, nice. I like that. So it's looking good. But say it's, like I said, less time tying, more time more time fishing. So first pair of legs in, and then we're going to tie in a little bit more of our dubbing, a bit more at the packet here. This could also work if you wanted to tie a shrimp fly, sort of a hackled shrimp. It's also could be an interesting concept. I haven't really gone down that road, but it should work the same. I'm going to put a little bit more dubbing into this. Okay, get to about here. Now, this is where we're going to take this first hackle and run it through. You can use hackle pliers for this. It can be a little bit easier, but it doesn't matter too much. So we're going to take this hackle, palmer it down. Watch out for the legs. Move these legs out of the way. Palmer it down, fairly close turns on the palmering, fairly close, just to create that bulk. That's it, like so. Fairly close. You're going to leave slight gaps in between each turn, just to allow for us to be able to pick out the dubbing. Come forward. A bit of white in there, which is always good. That sort of mottled or mixed colorway. Okay, we're into the end of the hackle, so we're going to take our thread and tie this guy off right there. Pull all the hackles back so we're not catching too much. Don't worry if you've caught a few hackles when you've palmered through, because coming back through with the brush and picking each individual fiber out whilst we work our way up with the picking out the dubbing should remove any sort of heavily trapped areas. So looks good to me. Just neaten that up. Okay, so you can already see how that's starting to take some shape. You got the legs here, sort of being pushed out a little bit by the hackle. So we're going to lay a bit more dubbing down. Firstly, tie in that hackle, lay a bit more dubbing down, and then our next set of legs, and just work our way up. So same as before, we're going to strip those hackles back a little bit, just so that we give ourselves some room for the tie-in point. Okay, tie in that hackle. Nice. Remove the tip. There we go. It goes nice and neat. Okay, taking our dubbing. We're only going to dub a little bit before we put the next leg in, because we're pretty much halfway. So I'm going to just cover it where we tied that in. Okay, same process as before. Match the two legs up. When I match the legs, I always match the bottom bit to the orange coming off the pearly white, as you can see. Match those up, trim them so we have the right amount of orange hotspot that we want. Tie this guy in, sort of try and keep it a similar, roughly similar length to the previous leg that you tied in. Pull it back a little bit too much into that, so I'm going to pull it back. Okay, tie them in, always tying in these legs on the side. Fold it over. Let's see where we are. It's a little bit long, I'm going to trim that and then fold it back again. So trim him, match him up. Yep, that's about right. Okay, nice. Get that tied in on the side. Okay, butt it up with the dubbing that we just lashed on. Nice. So we're pretty much there. A little more dubbing, one more pair of legs, palmer it, and we're there. So this is what you would call sort of a quintessential guides fly. So something which, you know, if I was really going at it, I could whip up a bunch of these really quickly. Ready for, you know, the next day. So these guys are So quick and easy to tie. They don't need much materials, but they're also, you know, extremely effective, which is obviously why we love them so much. But they're also very durable. I mean, surprisingly enough, those triggerfish can bite through, you know, a hook shank without too much trouble, depending on how you hook them. You know, it's kind of one of the tricks with triggerfish is hooking them the right way, but they can bite through a hook shank quite happily if you hook them, you know, fairly deep or right in the jaws. And they will also go through things like brushes as well. You know, if you kind of hook them in the side of the mouth and they're really, after a 2-3 minute long fight, they're really chowing down on that hook, on the brush, they will pop the brush. But with a hackle, they don't really tend to get through them. I think that it's because the hackle's quite soft and flexible and will absorb a lot of that sort of chowing down. But for whatever reason, they seem to last a bit longer, these flies. Trim off that last leg. Whoop. Add some sharper scissors. Okay. And back. Put your thread just in front of those legs. We're going to finish off the dubbing. So we're going to dub right up to the eye of the hook. I'm going to dub that. So pull those legs back. Again, pretty loosely dubbing it. We want to be able to pick that dubbing out and and add a little bit of extra sort of movement and flow to the fly. So, okay, beautiful. So, lastly, same as before, take our hackles and palm her forward. Now, be careful with this on the initial tie-in, because there's nothing more frustrating than having spent all that time, you know, tying the legs in, dubbing up, and then you pull the hackle to start the palmering process. Either you pull it too hard and break it, or you haven't cinched it in properly in the first place, in which case it pops out. Because if you've ever worked with dubbing, which most of you guys will have done, it's very difficult to unwind dubbing, especially a lot of dubbing. Can be a real process. So keep that going. Jump forward between the legs. Make sure it doesn't spin on me, and pulling out these fibers as you go, like so. Beautiful. We can probably get one more turn in there. Nice. Okay. Get your thread in, capture that, work it through those fibers so we're not trapping too much. Couple of turns around the back there. Secure that hackle in place. Trim, and there we go. It looks a little bit messy at the minute. It's okay. Pull out those ones that got caught on the front. Okay. It's all straight. So let me just jump that thread, advance it forward. Now I'm just going to look at our legs, make sure they're fairly uniform. There's a little bit of a big discrepancy, like in this back one. Trim him. This one as well is a little bit extra length. That's okay. Trim it to keep them all in line. Okay. So two more steps left to finish the process. We're going to brush out the dubbing, and then lastly, this is an optional step, put in a weed guard. I like a weed guard, especially in the sort of corally areas where we tend to find these triggers. Triggers especially, it's always great to have a weed guard. They, you know, you can always tie one in, trim it out, but you can't trim off it. You know, you can't add one in on the water unless you decide to bring a fly tying kit with you, which is, you know, unlikely. So just brush out these fibers. You can see how when you brush them out, bring out all the trapped ones, they really puff out nice and big, like a sort of like a pom-pom, I suppose. It's just what you want, because as that fly gets wet, you see how these hackles all sort of fine down and they'll drape over the back. So if you see how I've sort of left that, let me take this tab it. The hackles drape really nicely over the, along with the legs, over the back sort of chenille hackle, as it were. So they finish around where the knot is. You can see that. So just finish around here, which is about perfect. That just aids as well when those hackles are pushing back. It just aids in stopping that claw from fouling. So that's the finished fly. All I'm going to do now is take a little bit of it's a 16-pound Mason hard mono. It's, you know, I love this stuff. I use it for our tarpon fishing when I'm tying our leaders. I like to use IGFA regulation leaders, so I use it for tarpon fishing. So it's a, you know, it's a great kind of combination. I can tie up my leaders and also use it for the weed guard. So for this guy, we're just going to use a single weed guard. It's a light fly. You know, you don't need to go too kind of heavy duty crazy with it. So all I do, follow the curve of the mono, and then I'm going to bite the end of it, or probably better with pliers. Probably shouldn't really bite it, but bite it, bend it up, tie it in, and then we're good to go. So just bite that flat. So we have a tie-in point. I'll build up that a little bit. Capture them in on top. Couple of loose turns just to capture them in. Make sure it's pointing over the hook point, otherwise it's not going to be effective. Okay, a couple of stronger turns just to make sure that guy's in place. Bend him back a little bit just to make sure it's in place and sticking out. Okay, lash down, couple in front, just to keep that weed guard rigid and standing upright. Okay, a couple around the stem. Pull down, keep that weed guard in place. There we go. And then we're gonna whip finish, trim the weed guard, and that's it. Pull down, trim that. Measure your weed guard, trim it just past the point, like so. And there you go. That's the finished article. All you have to do is add a little bit of glue or UV resin to the front here just to secure that, and then color that claw up. So I'll show you that right now. Yeah, so that's the finished fly. You can see here. I'll just spin this in the vise for you. You can see the epoxy resins been put on the front there, and you can see I've colored the claws. You can see this sort of tanny brown mixed with a bit of blue and red in there. Just adds a bit extra to the fly. Hopefully you should be able to see as well the sort of tips of the hackles, the change of sort of honey brown to white coming through on the camera. That adds a really nice accent to the fly. So yes, it's a bit bushy, looks a bit messy. Often the messier flies are really effective, as is this one. If you only take one thing away from this video, I would definitely take away the fact that it's always worth taking a couple of Sharpies and just barring up the flies or adding a bit of color here and there. It really makes a big difference. And also a lot of times if you're going somewhere new, if you're not too sure of what to take, a white fly or sort of a slight sort of white tan is always a great bet. If you need to change colors, it's a great base color for adding, you know, olives or browns or whatever you want to do. Okay guys, so as you can see, I have the old one and now I have the new one. Both the same, the only difference being the hook choice. So that's the Hackled Crab. I hope you enjoyed that. Really simple fly to tie, but super effective. It's probably probably my top 5 flies. I will be working through more flies in the future. Again, we're trying to probably put out a video weekly, hopefully a little bit less than a week. A mixture of tarpon, permit, bonefish, triggerfish flies. Hopefully some offshore flies as well. So a real variety amongst the other sort of how-tos and different stuff we're going to be putting out there. So be sure to check those out. But yeah, like and subscribe. Give us a hit up in the comments if there's anything you want us to do differently, or you have a request or something. We'd be more than happy to give those a go. But yeah, if you want to kind of follow more on what we're doing, then feel free to hit up our Facebook pages at Flyfish Costa Maya or FFCM Outfitters. That's where you can find us, find our content, sort of articles, blogs, photography, different stuff we've put out there. Feel free to hit up the websites as well at flyfishcm.com or FFCM Outfitters. You can go to our fly shop page and kind of see what we're doing. Also, if you're looking for some guided fishing possibly or some more information about the fishery down here in Mexico, we're more than happy to answer any questions, help you out, kind of put you in the right direction. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed that. And yeah, I'll catch you on the next one.